Welcome back to GM Vision. Today we're going to be going through my Week 7 picks and best bets. Our current record is 62-30. For bets against the spread, we were 4-3. We had a tough week in Week 6, but we did just start betting props last week, and we are 3-0 so far. For more of the prop bets, we will be dropping them down in the comments later in the week when they come out, so come back later in the week and check the comment section for those. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe. It goes a long way in helping this channel grow. With that being said, let's get right into the picks. So we have the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers on Thursday Night Football. First, we're going to look at Joe Flacco and his connection with these receivers. He had a rough first half against the Packers this past week, but really got it going in the second half. He got the connection going with T. Higgins, and he really started getting it going with Jamar Chase. I was originally excited to see Joe Flacco go to the Bengals. He gives his receivers a chance to catch a football downfield, and I think that's really the strength when it comes to those two receivers. Now, this is an AFC North matchup, and the Steelers definitely are trending in a better direction than the Bengals. The Steelers have been playing some complimentary football, really getting it done in all three phases. And it's going to be a good test for this Steelers secondary, with Joe Flacco and the Bengals getting a full week of preparation. But I think the real difference in this one is the Steelers' pass rush and their D-line getting after Joe Flacco, not letting him get comfortable and on the same page throughout this game with the receivers. So I think this could be a relatively low-scoring game with a lot of question marks as to what the Bengals are going to look like, and if we can really trust the Steelers team to be consistent and win the games they should. So for that reason, we're going to pass on this game, although there could be some props that we might bet on later in the week that I'll have down in the comments. So we're going to go ahead and stick with the Steelers getting a win on Thursday night. All right, now moving on to what's probably the best London game yet. We had the Los Angeles Rams against the Jacksonville Jaguars, two teams that have been playing pretty well this year. One of the key factors in this game, well, if the Jaguars can continue to get takeaways, they currently lead the league in takeaways. However, this defense is dealing with some injuries. Devin Lloyd is questionable, along with one of their best edge rushers, Trayvon Walker, having to play with a cast, who really only played on third downs last week. That leads us right into Puka Nacua's injury. It looks like it's reported that he's going to end up missing this game in London with an ankle injury. That's a huge deal for the Rams offense, and now they're going to have to rely on Devontae Adams to step up along with the rest of those receivers. They did get a sloppy win against the Ravens this past week, but without Lamar Jackson and missing some of those key pieces on defense from the Ravens, you were hoping that they would look a little bit cleaner. However, the Jaguars also didn't play a very clean game, losing to the Seahawks this past week. So on another big stage, similar to how the Jaguars were against Kansas City on Monday Night Football, I think you see Travis Hunter really make an impact on this game. He's been asked to step up, with them trading away their other corner, Tyson Campbell, for Greg Newsome, who's really still trying to get settled, with this being his first full week of preparation with the team. But even with that last week, he did play a lot of offensive snaps, and I think the Jaguars will continue to make him a big factor in this game. The Rams' defensive line will also be a problem for the Jaguars in this one. After seeing what the Seahawks did to him last week, that will most likely be the game plan as far as how they look to attack this Jaguars offense, getting pressure on the quarterback. But I think Jacksonville will make improvements throughout the week and have a good game plan going up against this LA Rams defense. So we will take the Jaguars to get a win in this one in London. We will also take them +3, and I think this will be a good game to bet on as well for props. So now looking at the Miami Dolphins going to Cleveland to play the Browns. There's been a lot of drama in Miami, none of it very positive. Hopefully they can get things figured out and get ready to play Cleveland. Devon Achane is going to have a huge impact on this game. He's pretty much the Dolphins' entire offense, although Tua has gotten a connection going with Jalen Waddle now that Tyreek Hill is out. That'll be Cleveland's toughest test on defense, is really limiting Devon Achane in the backfield and also in the receiving game. And that leads us to the Browns' defense. They are probably the most dominant defense in the NFL so far. They have playmakers all over the field. And with the Dolphins' offense not really being able to put a full game together, I think Tua will have multiple turnovers in this one, and the Browns defense will really be able to dominate this game. And then Quinshon Judkins, the rookie running back for the Browns, I think he'll have a dominant week. The Dolphins have not been able to stop the run game at all. They let Rico Dowdle go for over 200 yards rushing 2 weeks ago, and then this past week, the Chargers had success running the football even without their starting running back, Amarian Hampton. So I think the Browns defense does just enough to get past this Miami Dolphins team. They force some turnovers and end up getting the win at home. As far as betting, I think we're going to pass on this game. There's just too much unknowns. I think it'll be a sloppy game, but the Browns end up winning. All right, so now looking at the Las Vegas Raiders going to Kansas City to play the Chiefs. So the big story in this one will be Rashee Rice's return to this Chiefs offense, who's getting hot at the right time. They're already starting to figure it out without him, and with this much anticipated return, I think he really takes this Chiefs offense to the next level. However, I don't think he makes a huge impact in his first game back, or at least as much people are thinking. He will have an impact on this team, but I think he really starts to get it going once he gets his feet under him and gets a few games under his belt. And looking at the other side, the Raiders' offense is really flowing through Ashton Jeanty. They will really have to get him going in this one if they want a shot. Also, the Raiders will be without Brock Bowers most likely again this week. That's a huge deal. He really balances out this offense and forces teams to respect the pass. The Chiefs' defense played a lot better this past week, and I expect them to be pretty dominant in this one. I think they're able to limit Jeanty and really force Geno Smith to throw the football, which he's not been very clean at all throughout these first 6 weeks. So I do have the Chiefs getting the win in this one. The spread was a little high, but we're still going to bet on this one. I think we focus more on the props than the spread, although it is possible for them to get 12.5. So we are going to take the Chiefs at home in this one regardless. And like I said, for prop bets, always look in the comments later in the week when they come out. So now looking at the Patriots going to Tennessee to play the Titans, we have the Mike Vrabel revenge game. The former Tennessee Titans head coach looking to get a win in his old home. Looking at this one, you're really focusing on Drake May. He's coming off some great weeks. He's playing really good football. That offense is starting to hit its stride. Obviously, the other storyline is going to be the other head coach, Brian Callahan, getting fired earlier in the week. That's never a good recipe for success, but it is a chance for an interim head coach to come in and re-energize this team. So all eyes will be on Drake May in this one. He's been playing some really good football. This offense is starting to hit its stride. They are struggling to get it going in the run game, though. That's been a concern throughout the entire year. I think they will have some success on the ground versus this Titans defense, but not really as much as they would hope. And I think it will be another game of Drake May airing it out. But we also will be looking at the other quarterback, Cam Ward. How will they respond to losing their head coach? They really haven't been able to put a full 4 quarters together at all this year. Could this be the spark to get this team going in the right direction? The Patriots are feeling good about themselves, but they did just play the Saints, who aren't a very good team in their own right. I'm thinking about taking the 7 points in this one, so that also might be down in the comments later in this week. But for now, we are going to say it will be a good game to bet some props. So in this one, we are going to stick with the Patriots getting a win on the road. Okay, so looking at this one, we got the Jets traveling North Carolina to play the Panthers. This Jets team is really at the bottom of the barrel right now. They have coaching concerns. Players look frustrated, probably coming off their worst game of the year. And that's never good when the team you're about to play is coming off some of the best football they've played. So this will be a battle between the young quarterbacks, Bryce Young and Justin Fields. Obviously, Bryce Young's playing a lot better ball right now. Also, you got to look at Rico Dowdle, who's having a resurgence to his career, really running the ball effectively, having back-to-back weeks of over 200 yards of total offense. It's going to be a big test for this Jets run defense to really try to limit him and make the Panthers one-dimensional. And if they do that, it's going to be about also taking care of T-Mac, who, while he didn't have a lot of yards last week, he got in the end zone twice and is really having a good start to his rookie career. So we are going to take the Panthers in this one at home, but we are going to pass on betting on it. These still are two teams who are objectively not very good. The Panthers have been riding high, and I think you see them come down a little bit. And then the Jets are pretty much at the bottom, and I think you see them play a little bit better. So while I do think the Panthers will win, I don't think it'll be a very clean game. All right, so now taking a look at the Eagles traveling to Minnesota to play the Vikings. This Eagles team is on a 2-game slide, most recently losing to the New York Giants, which was a pretty big step back for them. And then the Vikings were coming off a bye week where they got a sloppy win against the Browns. I think the Eagles are really going to try to get this pass game going. Saquon Barkley is not having as good as a start to the season as he has in the past. And I think you really are looking for Jalen Hurts to step up. That's going to mean the Vikings pass defense is going to have to play well in this one to keep them in it. But also on the other side of the ball, I think the Eagles are also going to have to play pretty well. Justin Jefferson is one of the best players in the NFL. And if you're the Eagles, the one thing you can't do is let him beat you. He's going to make his plays, but you really have to try to limit him as much as possible. And that leads right into the next point, turnovers. Carson Wentz can be a turnover machine if you let him. He is in a pretty good coached offense that does help him. But this Eagles defense has playmakers all over the field, and I think that could cause some trouble for Carson Wentz back there. I think you see turnovers be the reason that the Eagles get the win in this one. I am tempted to take the Eagles minus 2.5 and might later in the week, but for now we're going to pass. But I do think the Eagles bounce back in this one and do get the win. All right, so looking at the Colts traveling to Los Angeles to play the Chargers. The Colts coming off barely getting a win against Jacoby Brissett and the Cardinals, and the Chargers having a last-second win against the Miami Dolphins. Neither of them very convincing wins. The test will be the Colts' pass defense against this Chargers team. Although they do want to run the ball, they are without both of their running backs. They are going to rely on Ladd McConkey and Keenan Allen to get it done in this one. We'll also have to see if Quentin Johnston comes back. The Colts were without their top cornerback Travarius Ward when he got a concussion in pregame. That's never a good thing. Then on the other side of the ball, the real strength for this Colts defense is being well-rounded. They're able to run the ball really effectively with Jonathan Taylor. He's having a great start to the season. If you're the Chargers, you're really trying to make them one-dimensional. And that's where Indiana Jones comes in. Daniel Jones is going to have to step up in this one. I think the Chargers are going to make this a really close game, and it's going to be on him to go win on the football game. Luckily for the Colts, he's been able to do that so far this year. But this will be another good test for him to see if he can continue to prove himself. With that being said, we're going to take the Colts on the road. They're playing better football right now. They're healthier right now. And we're going to take them as dogs plus 1.5. I think you could also see some prop bets in this one, where that comes to some of the Chargers receiving yards. Also on the other side of the ball, I think Tyler Warren continues to have success. So obviously stay tuned later in the week for those props. Now we have the Saints traveling to Chicago to play the Bears. In this one, we're going to be looking at Caleb Williams and how he's progressed in the Chicago offense, coming off a win against Washington where they won on a last-second field goal, and the Saints coming off a close loss to the Patriots. The Saints have really only been able to find success when they're able to get turnovers on defense. I think the Bears will realize that in this one, and Caleb Williams in this offense will take care of the football. With that being said, it'll definitely be a test for the Saints pass defense. The Bears showed last week that they can effectively run the football, which will be a key for them if they want to run away with this one. But the strength of this offense is throwing the football. They have Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, Colston Loveland, and Luther Burden, to name a few. So when playing at home and coming off a good win against a good team in the Commanders, we're going to stick with the Bears to get the win and cover in this one. Then we have the New York Giants traveling to Denver to play the Broncos. The Giants coming off a great win against the Philadelphia Eagles, a divisional matchup, and the Broncos coming off a gritty win in London against the Jets, where in the previous week they also beat the Eagles. This will be interesting to see how Jackson Dart and Cam Scadaboo try to continue their success against one of the best defenses in the NFL. This is really going to be a litmus test for this offense. This Broncos defense is really good. They have a great pass rush, and they have some playmakers in the secondary. I think they're going to get after Jackson Dart. They're really going to try to limit their run at the beginning of the game and make the Giants one-dimensional. That's going to put a lot of pressure on Jackson Dart with how good this Broncos pass rush has been. And I just don't think that these New York Giants receivers are going to do enough to get it done against players like Pat Surtain II. I think all of this together really creates some problems for the Giants, although they themselves are also really good on defense. The Broncos really struggled to put up points against a bad New York Jets team, and that's where I think it's going to be really tough for them to cover the full 7 points. I think this New York Giants pass rush can get after Bo Nix, but I think the Broncos are going to get up early and really take that pass rush out of the equation, which is what is going to end up getting them the win. And because of all of that, I think we're going to pass on this game as far as betting goes. All right, so here we have another good one. We got the Commanders traveling to Dallas to play the Cowboys. Got a good rivalry going. When looking at this game, I think a key factor is going to be the Cowboys' run defense. The Commanders are very effective on the ground with their rookie Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt getting it going, and also Jayden Daniels getting it done with his legs. This game is tricky to predict early. Will the Cowboys get CeeDee Lamb back for this one? It's looking like it's very possible. And will the Commanders get Terry McLaurin back for this one as well? Those are two big question marks, which will be very big factors for each team and win this game. While we're not going to bet the spread in this game, I think this will be great for props, whether it's CD's yards, George Pickens' yards, maybe Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt to get it going on the ground, or some of the props for Jayden Daniels. This game will be an interesting one, but right now we're going to take the Commanders getting a win on the road. I have the Green Bay Packers traveling to Arizona to play the Cardinals. The Packers are coming off a game where it didn't feel close, but it got close at the end against the Bengals. And then you have the Cardinals, who almost beat the Colts with their backup quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. Green Bay really needs to start to find a rhythm on offense. They look good at times, but they struggle to keep it going for a full 4 quarters. They're really starting to get their rookie receiver, Matthew Golden, going. And also, you really like to see Josh Jacobs and the way that he's been running the football as of late. I think he will have a big impact on this game and will eventually help Green Bay win it. And then Kyler Murray, he's the question mark. If he plays, obviously the Cardinals have a better chance to win the game. He's very dynamic and makes that offense go. If he doesn't go, Green Bay will have a full week of tape on what Jacoby Brissett looks like in this Cardinals offense, and I think they really just dominate this game. Although I'm not betting the spread in this one, I think you could really look to the props, maybe Josh Jacobs' rushing yards, and we'll kind of see what that looks like later on in the week. So I will take the Packers on the road. All right, so now we have a great game. We got the Tampa Bay Bucs traveling to Detroit to play the Lions. The Bucs are having a great start to the season at 5-1, and the Lions are coming off a tough loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the keys to this game is getting Sonic and Knuckles or Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery going in this game, with Emeka Egbuka, who's their star rookie receiver, who now has a hamstring injury. Mike Evans out, Chris Godwin out. I think you see this Lions offense realize that if they control the clock in this one and really run the football effectively, this Bucs offense won't be able to get in a rhythm and score many points. However, Baker Mayfield is playing at an MVP level right now, and he has just showed that without these receivers, he can win football games. But I think the Lions are going to be hungry coming off that loss to Kansas City. They realize that this is a game they should probably win, with the Bucs being without all their weapons. I didn't even mention Bucky Irving still being out. So I think the Lions get the win in this one. This is a game that you should bet. We might take the spread later this week, but for now, I think this is a game that you should bet props on, especially the Lions' run game. I think you see the yards and the touchdowns from these running backs. And I think you see Baker Mayfield have to air it out. Even though Baker Mayfield got it done last week, I don't think he's going to be able to continue this success without all of his weapons on offense. All right, so we got a good one on the West Coast. We have the Atlanta Falcons traveling to San Francisco to play the Niners. The Falcons coming off a great win against the Bills, and the 49ers falling short, losing to the Bucs. This is going to be a game with the two best running backs in the NFL currently, Christian McCaffrey and Bijan Robinson. I think both will be very productive in this game. This 49ers defense will be without Fred Warner. I think you could see Bijan get going in this one. And James Cook was able to get it going for Buffalo a little bit last week, and I think Christian McCaffrey will have the same effect. Also, we have Purdy versus Penix. We're unsure if Purdy will play. It could be Mac Jones versus Penix. Either way, I think both quarterbacks will need to step up in this one, and it'll make the difference between getting their team to win. The 49ers should be getting a little bit healthier in this one. We'll see who gets off the injury report. And then we have this San Francisco defense, like we mentioned, without Fred Warner. That's a big question mark in this one. Will this Atlanta Falcons offense do what they did last week against the Bills? We're not going to take the spread early in the week on this one, but I think this will be a good game to bet some props on, which we will make later in the week. So we are going to take the Niners beating the Falcons at home. Here we have the Texans going to Seattle to play the Seahawks. The Texans are coming off a bye, and the Seahawks are coming off a good win against the Jaguars. In this one, I just see the Seahawks do what they did to the Jaguars and just dominate this Texans O-line. They are probably one of the worst O-lines in football. I think they get completely dominated like they have been throughout the year. This Seahawks defensive line is very versatile. They have great defensive tackles and do have some edge rushers that can make some plays. To go along with that, they should be getting some pieces back on that back end with Devon Witherspoon and Julian Love and Tyreek Woolen. But this will be a good test for the Seattle Seahawks offense. JSN has been one of the best, if not the best, receivers in the NFL up to this point, and he will be a big test for this Texans pass defense. The Texans have had one of the best defenses in the NFL this year, pretty much single-handedly keeping them in football games. But I think they're going to be on the field way too much in this game, with the Texans not being able to sustain drives. JSN keeps it going. I think this is a no-brainer. Take the Seahawks -3. Although I do think you could see the Seahawks struggle a little bit on offense, which is why I might not touch some of the props. But I do think they do end up getting the job done at home versus the Texans. That is the last game in the slate. Like I said, come back later in the week to check out some of the prop bets we'll have down in the comments. Also, I'm going to make an alternate line parlay and drop that down in the comments later in the week. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It really helps this channel a lot. That's all I got for you, and I'll see you in the next one.